What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Skyrider Limited. I am Jesse, and today we are on a very foggy Hampton beach. And you know that if I'm talking to a camera on a beach, it's probably time for another kite bag tour. Today, we're going to take a look at my 5 newest additions, which are sitting just over here. One of them is a brand new kite. It's new on the market. This one is out of just the second batch to land in the U.S. And then the other 4 are things that I've gotten. Recently, I got very lucky poking around on eBay, and I found some really cool pieces of history. So we'll talk about those and a little bit of the detail of them. And what's really fun about them is they are all associated with, under 3 different labels, one manufacturer. So we'll get to go through kind of a little bit of timeline of that manufacturer. So hang tight, and I'm going to go grab a kite. Okay, so story time. This kite came out earlier this year. It is from Flying Wings with help with design from the boys from Airrex. Watched a few videos. It was an interesting kite, but wasn't something I had a burning desire to own. Went to Kite Party, and as I've spoken about a few times, best thing to do when you're with a bunch of other kite flyers is fly their kites. So I flew John Baressi's personal one, and really enjoyed it. And Saturday night, after day 1 of Kite Party, I went back to our Airbnb and promptly ordered one. So this is a Gaze, Flying Wings and Airrex being brought into the U.S. through Kite Forge. A lot of really cool stuff with this kite. It's pretty bouncy, all Mystic and radius frame, protruded top spreader as usual. Really nice seatbelt nose, very durable, and a really interesting sort of over nose piece that keeps everything very smooth and snag free. Their Sky Claw yo-yo stops, which I found really easy to hit. It's a lot of fun. It's bouncy. It takes a little getting used to. From a lot of stuff I fly is fairly stiff by comparison, but I found it really enjoyable and a lot of fun and very precise. Also makes a good noise, which I thoroughly enjoy as kind of an old school guy. Kites that make noise always scratch a particular itch for me. And of course, had to have it in my usual custom color set of red, black, and white. Well-made sail, really pretty. Yeah, a lot of fun, and if you're looking for something that's sort of more of a multidisciplinary towards team kite, highly recommend checking one of these out. They do have some stock colors, and they do customs, and they come in, I think the Kite Forge website says something like every 12 weeks or so their batches go through, but definitely check with them for more details. I will have some flying footage of it coming out. Today is my first day with it. I've had it about a week, I think, but finally got out to the beach with it and flew it for a fair bit. So look for that in another video as well. So like I said at the start of this, I've been poking around eBay a bit, and I got very lucky recently. The first one I got lucky with was a pack of 3 kites. They were all being sold separately initially, and I talked to the seller and managed to pick them all up for a very reasonable price. And then he ended up throwing in an additional kite he found. More on that one later. I'm still digging up some details, so that one we're not going to talk about too much today. The reason I jumped onto this pack, though, was because they were all early Tim Benson pieces. 2 of them are Benson label kites. One of them is a Fizz. And I didn't have anything from quite this early in Tim's run. I have the outer space, which you've seen in a different video. I have an inner space and a second outer space I got in that eBay buy. I also have my Superflies and Supernovas, which you've seen in other videos. But these are the first early Bensons from before Fizz, or there were also some kites made under partnership with High Flyers and a few other people. So this was kind of exciting. This is the first one, 34-ish years old. This is a Scorcher by Benson Kites, pre-standoff. Little guy. Haven't gotten to fly this one yet. Probably needs a little bit of repair, as lower spreaders are not in great shape. But it was pretty cool to stumble across this with the set. because it's probably one of Tim's earliest sport kites, which was very exciting. And Tim was very nice. I reached out to him, and he gave me some details on them. So, ripstop and fiberglass, all reinforced rubber fittings, pretty typical of 30, 35 years ago. And I'm sure it's just going to be twitchy and fast and loud and a lot of fun. And I can't wait to put it in the air when I get the right day and a little bit of TLC into it. So this one's really cool too. The Scorcher had a younger brother. This is the Scorcher 2. So you can see it grew a little bit of a tail there, and we got some standoffs. The reason this one's a little sandy is I actually flew this today. And it's, oh God, it's all the nostalgia of like when I first started to fly, floppy and crisp little corners and noisy, and it was weird flying something like that again, but it was a lot of fun. And it's a tiny little thing, so like it doesn't take a lot to knock it around the sky and make it do quick little corners and everything. So this one's about a 1991, and Tim reckoned from the pictures what he could see it was probably all original, which was really exciting. This one is, again, just sort of a collection edition, a lot like the Scorcher. It was fun to fly. I doubt I will fly it a ton, but it's cool to have the history. And for me, growing up, I was always aware of Benson kites, but they weren't as around as some of the other stuff in the U.S. There was no internet. I'm of the generation that remembers the internet coming into my home, so... when the internet was around, stuff seemed a lot more accessible. When I was, when 1991, when this guy came out, I would have been four-ish. Into the Wind catalogs and stuff like that. But like that was about it for exotic kites, and maybe somebody you knew mail ordered one, but I was probably 10 or 12 before I saw my first Benson that I was like aware of as a Benson. So getting some of that like early history in my hands is really cool and is proving to be a lot of fun. And with that, let's take a look at the oddest shape in the group and probably my favorite. So this is the one that caught my eye. This is my first Fizz kites. Fizz was Benson after the first run of Benson, as my understanding. This one's probably about a 92, Tim reckons. This is a Swallowtail, so much bigger than the others, and with this really cool double tail where it gets its name. I flew it today. It could use a few little repairs. One of the fittings is in rougher shape than I thought it was, and I thankfully stopped flying it just in time to protect it. A lot of fun. Really flat axle, turns inside the wingtip, pretty radical, fast, good solid line presence. It was a lot of fun. It's cool to fly this early stuff because this was when people were experimenting, and some of this stuff informs later designs, which is always really cool because if you're paying attention as you fly different kites, you can start to pick up on lineage, on influence. That isn't to imply anyone is cribbing off of anyone or anything, but just that milestone kites inform things going forward. I think there's a lot of, for example, Cavalier sticks in the Nirvana series and a lot of Nirvana series in a lot of other French kites that came after. Not saying that they are, copies, but that you can see somebody flew a Nirvana and took things that they liked, but improved things they didn't, and you can feel that in the French kites, and you can feel that in British kites, and West Coast American kites definitely have a feel, which is just a lot of fun for me to see those lineages when you fly kites. So Swallowtail, it's cool. Needed some new bungees, but other than that, it's in really, really good shape and pretty original. And was a lot of fun to fly. So hang tight. I'm going to go grab the last one for today, and we will kind of finish this story up. So, last kite for today. Arguably the biggest classic of the pack, and the one that I am probably the most excited to have added to my collection. This one I stumbled across separately on eBay, and it had already made its way to the U.S. This is a High Flyers tag Phantom. So the Benson Phantom is probably Tim's longest running design in one form or another. The Phantom, the Bantam Phantom, which is the baby Phantom, and the Phantom Elite have run almost the entire time Tim's been building kites. You can still order a Phantom Elite right from Tim, right off his website, brand new. This is a High Flyers tag Phantom. So it was built when my understanding is Tim was getting busy enough that he needed somebody to take up producing the Phantoms. And we think, based on the tag color and a few other cues, that this kite is probably an early run High Flyers, like a 90, though this tag color was in use from 90 to 92, is my understanding. My other understanding from digging around, both from what the previous owner, who did a really nice job refreshing the kite, and some old forum posts, is that this early in the High Flyers run, Tim would have sewn the sail, which is really cool to me, because, you know, Tim's hand was actually on it, which makes it more Benson-y, if that makes sense. Flew this one as well today, and you know, you can see why it's a classic. Just absolute, like, perfect behavior, a great example of that period of kites. Just tracks so solidly, corners so crisp, beautiful on the wingtip turns, everything you want out of like an early 90s Delta Wing sport kite. Exactly what you expect it to be. Did take me a minute to remember how to axle kites from this era, but it does that. It slides, and I imagine it probably does a very nice 540, though I haven't found it, and I don't want to beat it up too much. It's really cool to see the kind of full circle here too, because the Gaze, a brand new kite with a really old school seatbelt web nylon nose, and here's the Phantom with a really old school, because it is old school, seatbelt web nylon nose. It's beautiful. So all these later kites are ripstop nylon, which is pretty typical for the era. Icarus didn't come into use for a little bit. You know, like 92, I think you start seeing a lot of ripstop kites, but like in the 90 window, a lot of Icarus kites, ripstop was much more typical, and continued through the 90s. Even as late as like the early mid 2000s, Viper Sport kites, Sean Tinkham was still using ripstop. He really liked the way it behaved, and he thought that because it was a little more permeable, it smoothed out the air a little bit better. It made the kites had better kind of speed control. They wouldn't surge as much. Yeah, so I mean, all these are really cool. They're survivors. They could all probably use with a good bath, but for now, I'm just going to fly them and enjoy them. I hope you enjoyed this tour through these older kites and through some of that Benson history. If you have any questions or comments, please write in the comments there on the video. And until next time, we will see you out there, Skyrider.